are the change, hosted by Valita Stoke and our lovely guest.
Hi, Dr. Shannon Findlay.
Yay! And she works at our Career Center here at Oxnard College.
I do.
And I'm so excited to have her here because a lot of kids come here, obviously going to school, get an education, but after that, what happens? We'd like to know.
Wow, that was a loaded question.
starting hot.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, ideally, what happens when folks come to us and thus leave is they are finding gainful employment somewhere where they are thriving and feeling fulfilled, and ideally making enough money to live a comfortable life as well. So that is what I'm hoping goes on afterwards. All the wonderful things, and that is something that the Career Center can support with, is making sure that folks are taking the intentional steps to make that happen, because it's a practical effort. It's not something that we just kind of leave up to fate. It's not a fatalistic thing. And the more effort that we can put into it, front loading, it's just going to be a smoother sail from there.
Wonderful. Now, when a student does come in, and I'm sure they have a million questions, but at least what I've heard from the population is that, yes, I want a job, but how do I start? What are the few kind of areas or websites you start them on to just, the process begins?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would say is come and see us, right? Of course, any job that is providing for us is great. And in the same breath, my goal is that folks enjoy the jobs that they're in, that it's not a miserable thing for them. So if you need some support figuring out what that looks like for you, because everybody's different, everybody's got their own unique strengths and personalities, and those fit places and they don't fit places. And we like to try to take the trial and error and guesswork out of that. So first step I would say is to come see us. Next step would be, well, there's a couple next steps. It's not necessarily a linear process. It depends on the student and what their exact needs are. But I would join Handshake, which is our job platform. Part of what's great about Handshake, in comparison to something like Indeed or that you would find kind of generally on the internet, is that it is monitored by the entire district. So there's job placement specialists at each campus, and anytime a new employer wants to register or any job listing that's posted that's new, it is monitored by a couple different folks to make sure it's not a scam, that it's all legal, that it's not kind of a scary or sketchy situation. The other piece of the puzzle with Handshake is when employers are posting on our job board, they are aware that they're recruiting students. And ideally, what you're going to find is an employer that's empathetic to potentially a shifting schedule or really the dynamic nature of being a student at the same time as being a worker. And maybe a parent or a sibling or caring for other folks. I mean, we all have so many pieces of our lives that are important. But adding that student piece is kind of huge. And sometimes employers get it and sometimes they're a little more rigid. So ideally, some of the folks that are posting jobs on our job site are aware of that. They know they're coming to the campuses for folks, which is great. So Handshake would be the first thing to register for. There's a couple different things that you can do to really streamline the experience that you're looking for. You can add things like your major, things like your skills, things that you qualify for, things that can kind of get funneled to you in a little more streamlined way. So Handshake would be a great place to start. And seeing our job placement specialists for support with that as well. In addition to starting to prepare your job application materials. And that's kind of something that I see is a struggle with a lot of students. And that's a fair struggle because it's not something that's naturally just taught to us or to know how to do. And that's not just a brand new student out of high school thing. That's most adults don't really know how to get through it.
Oh, no.
And it's not like a high school class that you take that tells you. So we can support with those as well. We can support students in developing a resume, even if they don't have work experience, which can be a little daunting. A lot of students come in and they say, well, I've never worked anywhere, so I can't make a resume. And that's just not true.
No.
There's plenty of things that we can add.
Oh, yeah.
And we can help you kind of avoid some red flags and really highlight you in the best possible way to give you the best chance at earning the job. So resume is one, cover letter is another, kind of expanding on that resume more in a narrative form. And we can support you with all of those things in addition to kind of just getting through the job application, which depending on the organization or the company, it could look different and funky, and sometimes it's helpful just to have someone who's seen it before go through it with you. So those would be the first places to start. To recap, handshake, coming and seeing us in the Career Center, resume and cover letter composition, and again, we support you with that. That's not something you just have to do. And then joining our Canvas shell too. So if it's kind of a last minute thing, you just happen to see the job description and it's due at midnight and it's 11 p.m. Love you guys, but I'm not working at 11 p.m. I'm old and I'm sleeping.
Yeah. Fair.
I'm old and I'm sleeping. But we still want you to have that support. So we have templates for both resumes and cover letters there. So joining that Canvas shell as well in the instance that you either can't come make an appointment with us and you just need to get something out really quick, or maybe you kind of start there and see what you can get done and bring in something that we just kind of tweak a tiny bit. But those are the things I would say would be most important.
Okay. It's funny that you bring that up because I actually helped my friend recently redo her resume.
Oh, nice.
Because she was just unfortunately one of the percentage who never got help, never really got taught how to do a resume, and she gave it to me, and I was like, girl, this needs a little work, but I'm here,
Happens to the best of us.
Exactly, and I love that because a lot of people get scared. She was scared to ask me for help, but I was more than happy just to sit there and really just plug it out with her, and it helps so much to have not just one person, but you guys, there's a whole center of you, and so please, to everyone in the population of Oxnard College, I want you to make sure you head here, Career Center, for any issues. And then, according to resumes, circling back, now there's different variations, of course. We talked how we can tweak it.
Yeah.
Are there any main areas that you kind of see people struggle with that you'd like to just give a few tips on?
Some main areas. Well, I will say that a resume is supposed to be short and sweet and to the point. I've been on quite a few hiring committees where you maybe get anywhere from 50 to 100 plus applicants at once. And as much as I would like to say that we gave every single one of those equal attention,
Of course.
we, I don't know if anyone's seen Ted Lasso, but we're goldfish, right? We forget things, or like we don't have such, gnarly attention spans. And we go into hypnosis a little bit as we're reading so many of these forms, especially if there's a lot of applicants in particular. So your resume should be short, sweet, and to the point. And it should be very tailored to the job description specifically. Now, one thing that I see, this is kind of a two-part thing. One thing that I see students struggle with is Oxnard College students have so many successes that they want to share. And really, they've just done a lot of amazing things. But not every single one of those amazing things is relevant for the specific job they're applying to.
Very true.
And they've also worked very hard to earn those wonderful, amazing things. And so sometimes it's hard emotionally to detach or remove
I've been there.
some of the less relevant pieces of the puzzle. And often when I'll explain to students, this is a space saver and you can put in something a little more relevant that is going to catch whoever the reader's eye is. That's probably going to be better in terms of getting the job and having your resume actually do what it's intended to do, which is get your foot in the door to an interview where you can talk about all those extra wonderful things and they can see your shining personality and hear more about your successes, right? But that first document is really supposed to be tailored to the specifics of wherever you're applying. So realistically, your resume is going to change pretty much everywhere you send it out. That said, sometimes I see folks struggle with the bullet points and how to adequately create them. So we're always starting with an action verb, right? I tell students no ing words because, not going to lie, sometimes you forget what an action verb is. It's been a long time since I've been in high school or learning that kind of stuff, right? But an action verb, we have lists that you can look at, or you can even just Google action verbs, right? You want to make sure those are consistent in terms of tense. So if you're talking about a past job, then all of your bullet points should start with an action verb that's past tense. If you're talking about a current job, everything should be present tense. Some tips on how to formulate those. We have a resource that we use. It's a federal resource, but it's called onetonline.org. And you can look up, I would say, in general, most jobs. If you had a really niche and specific job, maybe not, but we can find something super similar to it. And on ONET, one of the functions is looking at the tasks and the description of that job. And it's already kind of placed in the same type of wording you would use for a resume, which is really handy. You can plug in a job, let's just say customer service representative. You can type that in, and there will be a list of 21 different tasks. So first of all, we do so many wonderful things in our job that we kind of forget all the things that we do in our job. So if you're trying to think back to, 2 years ago, I was a customer service representative for some company. Okay. But I don't really know what I did. I can't even remember. I did so many things. Type in customer service rep, let it jog your memory. But then that's also a good place to kind of pull and plug some of those descriptions for your resume. Word of caution, please do not copy and paste because that is plagiarism. So we're going to work on our paraphrasing skills. Yes, that's a no. We are going to work on our paraphrasing skills, right? But it's a good place to kind of see what those bullet points, or how rather those bullet points should be formatted. So that's one good tip, is using ONET. Sometimes you can use Indeed too, because the job functions will be kind of in bullet points as well. But again, no copying and pasting. Paraphrase. Also, don't put anything on there that isn't true. Like if you didn't serve in that function, just skip that bullet point and down to what that you did, right?
No lying.
No lying. No lying. And I know that people are like, oh, just, fake it till you make it. And there will be a day where you have to own up to that. And if you can't, you don't want that to happen.
Fake it.
No, especially when there's plenty of things we can speak to that actually do fit, the things that you've done and the experience that you have. So little word of caution there, but also I would use ONET. That's helpful, or even Indeed is helpful. We do have on that Canvas shell, we have handouts that give you a whole bunch of action verbs. Other things that are on there would be like the top 10 soft skills that employers are looking for. So ideally, you'll have a little highlight section kind of towards the top of your resume that will include not just some of the more important content or hard skills or hard knowledge that you've learned from a similar job, but also the soft skills that are a little more transferable around multiple different industries, right? So things like interpersonal communication, or written communications, or being a team player, or flexibility and adaptability. I mean, those things you can use in most jobs, most positions, right? So top 10 that employers are looking for. And again, you're not just going to put, I don't know, interpersonal skills. That's great, but that doesn't tell me a story, right?
And that should be also kind of a given as well, going to any job.
Depending, there are jobs that, you're not really customer facing or interacting with folks too much.
That's
but
true.
Ideally, you want to know how to interact with your boss
Yes.
and potentially your colleagues, unless you're totally self-employed. But in that case, you're still going to have consumers or customers at some point. So we need to know how to play nice, I guess I should say. Yes.
Form words when talking to someone.
Yes. So long story long, definitely utilizing that Canvas shell. There's a bunch of handouts in there, including different action verbs and soft skills that are beneficial. Utilizing things like ONET to help you kind of form your bullet points. And then really checking that emotional attachment to the wonderful successes that you've had that aren't necessarily relevant. Just not to that resume, because there may be a point in the interview, or maybe even in your cover letter, where you can expand a little more in detail on some of those things. But if it has nothing to do with the job that you're doing, it doesn't necessarily belong there.
Yeah.
And that's hard for folks, because again, we're working so hard to earn these things, but we're also trying to work hard to earn the job, and that might not get you there.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one.
Yeah. I'd like to point out too, sometimes if you're really that attached, learn how to tweak it in a way where it can be applicable. But if you can't, then you just gotta, if you're going into a business field and then all you've got is something, I don't know, like all you can say is really like, oh, I lifted hay for my farm job. Does that really apply for a business? No.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta be Elsa and just let it go. Right?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, can I say that? Is that copyrighted by Disney? Are we gonna get cut off now?
Who's Elsa? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it. It's not important.
Who knows what the generation we're getting? We're getting to that point where who knows if they'll even know what that means.
I know. You can tell I've got kids at home, right? If I know that reference, or hopefully I got kids at home if I know that reference.
You'll be a Disney adult.
Yeah, right. That's a thing.
Very much a thing. I'd like to kind of start way at the beginning towards career exploration as a whole, because we kind of jumped into the process of applying for jobs.
Yeah.
But let's say you don't even know where you want to go. You're just going to school because you know that's the first step in order to get to a higher level. But where is that higher level as well? So
Yeah. Okay, raise your hand if at one point you had no idea what you wanted to do. Okay, raise your hand if at one point you changed your mind about what you wanted to do, right? That's the vast majority of us.
Exactly.
It happens. The good news is that we all have a multitude of industries and areas where we'll thrive and be happy. There are, I love to say this, and some people look at me funny, and that's fine, but there's no such thing as a career soulmate or a career twin flame. Okay, it's not a one-to-one thing. You're not missing out if you picked one thing that you like, but I could have liked this other thing more. Well, realistically, we have interests and we have strengths and we have values that span multiple different places. And the world of work is changing constantly. I mean, 5 years ago, were we talking about AI, or were we using Zoom as much in the workplace? Not necessarily where we are, right? I mean, the pandemic really highlighted how vastly things can change and how quickly, and with tech changing and all of that just changes what we're doing in our working life. So what I will say to folks is that career exploration is a lifelong journey because of all of those things. There are two primary pieces of knowledge that you're looking for when you're looking at career exploration. You need to know who you are, and you need to know industry knowledge, right? So I need to know if who I am is going to fit in this particular area, because again, some places will be a great fit, and some you're going to have a little bit more resistance and conflict, and that's when people end up with the Sunday scaries before they go to work, and that's not what you want, or at least that's not what I want. And ideally, my goal for everyone who is exploring careers or majors or just different pathways for themselves, my goal is to have them wake up in the morning and be excited to go do what they're going to do, right? Because we spend so much time at our jobs. We're spending so much time and energy in this process going to school. If people are transferring or they're not, it doesn't matter. You're putting so much effort into it. And ideally, most of us want it to be worthwhile, right? We want to be moving in the right direction. So first steps with career exploration, I would say first step is just be open, okay? Just be open. Start creating the opportunities for yourself. And sometimes creating the opportunities, just go see your career counselor. Okay, I have no idea. Great, we can work with that, right? It does not matter how much you know, how much you don't know, how nervous you are, how anxious you are. We accept all kinds with open arms. And realistically, it should be a fun process because you get to learn a lot more about yourself. You get to learn a lot more about the different opportunities that are out there for you. And to me, I want to frame that in my counseling sessions as a hopeful thing. I know that we live in an area and in a time where, finances can be tight. And a lot of the time it's, no, I just need to get moving with it, right? And in the same breath, let's get moving with it and find a trajectory that is meaningful for you in some way. We have lots of resources to help folks with that. And again, this is also, I love career counseling for this reason. It's nuanced. It's individual for everybody. It's not like, oh, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. Everyone's at a different spot on the journey. Some folks have worked in an industry for 20 years and now they're like, I just don't love it. I need something else. But they're not a blank slate. They're just starting something new. They're just adjusting course, which is great. And then some folks are coming straight from high school and they haven't worked a job before and they're just like, I don't know. There's lots of options for me. There's lots of options for everyone, right? But it really depends on what the students need. Some people have more of an idea than others. Some people have done their own exploring. Some haven't. Your mental health plays into this as well. There's so many different aspects that play into it. So it's really dynamic. But if you're a student who has no idea and you're just like, I'm at a loss, I don't even know where to start. We have assessments that we can provide to you. And sometimes those are beneficial. We kind of like to gauge who they're beneficial for and who they're not. If you are someone who's like, you know what, I don't know what I want to do. I just don't want to help people. I might not start you off on the assessment. I might kind of dive into, let's look at helping professions and let's kind of figure out where that fits because those are really diverse, right? Are you someone who wants to help people in a mental health capacity, in a physical health capacity? Do you want to create prosthetics for folks who maybe need support with mobility, right? That's helping too, but that's a very different kind of helping, right? It could be teaching, it could be counseling, it could be coaching. So in those instances, I'd have someone kind of sit down with me and be like, okay, we know you want to help. what other things about you do you want to incorporate in your day-to-day? And we kind of look at it from there. And then if we decide an assessment is useful, then we can move on from there. But sometimes that can be overwhelming for folks, more so than helpful. So that's why it's nice to kind of gauge. That's why I would say be kind of cautious with just taking a ton of free assessments that you see online. For some folks, more information is great. For some folks, it kind of gives them that analysis paralysis, and they get a lot more stuck, rather than just kind of being fed things that are useful at little doses at a time. And I would say all of those approaches are normal and healthy. So if you're that person who gets the analysis paralysis, it's okay not to overdo it and overstimulate yourself with all of the information. And there's a lot of information out there that's not correct.
Oh, yeah.
Or not helpful. Especially, again, be cautious with the internet searches. There's a lot of folks who call themselves experts in certain fields that
they are not.
Check the credentials. Check the credentials is all I'm saying. And I'm not trying to be harsh on anybody else who's, out there doing what they're doing. But it's a very unique process. And anytime you're working with people and you're supporting people in making decisions, you can be helpful or you can be less than helpful. And having the adequate training and the adequate credentials to be supportive of them is a very important thing. So we have assessments to support people. And then we have qualitative counseling to support people, and both are really effective tools when it comes to exploration. There's so much more to it, but I feel like I just talked for 10 minutes straight.
No, that's perfect, though, because everyone needs this information. I mean, even me, I've been in an industry for 10 years. I still love it. I still want to continue, but I want to broaden my knowledge in a different aspect of that industry. And even within that, diaspora of, going down a different path, there's still so many branches. So, like you said, analysis paralysis, I go through that all the time. I'll sit down and be like, okay, today I'm researching this, and this about the job that I'm going to go. And then I'm overwhelmed after 1 hour because I've only went through 2 websites and I still need to go through 10 more. So
right. Absolutely.
I can completely understand. Just give yourself time. I'm the type of person who will be like, I need to figure it out right now.
Oh gosh,
figure it out right. I am that for me is not healthy, and it's different for everyone else. It is very unhealthy for me because I get overstimulated. I get overwhelmed because I'm just over putting information in my head, and then of course I'm gonna crash out, and I crash out.
Yeah.
So I want everyone, especially all our new generation, and I'm still very young. You have the time, take the time. That is what school is for. And come to the Career Center. I love reiterating.
In my undergraduate studies, graduated with a woman who was 83, getting her bachelor's degree.
Love it.
Time is a social construct.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It is. It is your timeline. It is what it's supposed to be for you. It's what you want, and it's how to get there on your terms, right? So again, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. We're not going to stress.
Yeah, and you can get a degree and go into the field that you thought you wanted, and you love it. You love it for years and years, and like you said, all of a sudden it's like, I want to try something new now. I've done this for 10, 20 years. That's a long time. I still got, 40 years ahead? We grow to be such... I was like, I don't want to use any wrong terms. But old people. We grow to such old ages that you really realize if you break down your life into these sections or these decades, you have 10 years to just do that one thing. Like me, I put everything all in one day, and then I get cry because I don't get it done. Hey, I'm going to live for forever. No. And then, when you kind of put things into the broad spectrum of life as a whole, you realize you have all the time in the world. And school can make it feel so pressurized of having to get it done by all these due dates. Just breathe, relax, and listen to this podcast.
Absolutely. And as you're going through all of this, part of the career counseling role is the academic side of things, right? So I am also the person that likes to just get through everything. And I actually finished my doctorate at 28.
That's young. What?
But
That's young
listen,
still.
okay. I don't regret it at all, right?
Mhm.
I am glad I went through it the way I went through it. Everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out. And your mental health is also important.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if there's a word of wisdom that I can take from my own experience is just because you can does not mean you have to.
Mhm.
And then if you choose to kind of push through things and that works for you, then great. And in the same breath, your mental health matters.
Oh, it does.
Okay. You don't need to add extra anxiety or extra pressure. The world's going to do that enough for you.
Oh,
You
Lord.
don't need to do it to
Yeah.
yourself. So, unique pathway for everybody, right? Some people just want to charge through it super fast. Other
Mhm.
people are going to take time and savor it, and that's all great. And to your point of, I'm going to live forever, and this 10 to 20 years, it's, a long time to do something. Question for you, pop quiz.
Please.
How many times in a person's lifetime do you think they change careers? Not just jobs here and there, but careers.
Careers.
How many times?
4.
3 to 5.
Yes.
3 to 5, right?
I'm a good student.
Okay, so yes. So, folks, and maybe it was kind of this way decades and decades ago, right? But you used to think of careers where folks would maybe graduate from high school, maybe get a college degree, and then work in the same place for like 30 to 40 years. They'd have a retirement or a pension and they'd be done, but they were like committed to these companies and they never left and they did the same kind of stuff. Maybe they moved up into different roles, but it was very linear, right? That's not how it is these days. That's not how work exists. That's not how the world exists. That's just not how it is. So we kind of do these little like loop-de-loops, right? And when I talked about career exploration being a lifelong thing, that's part of it. You're never going to stop learning about who you are. We're always going to be growing. We're always going to be discovering things about ourselves, ideally, right?
Hopefully.
And then the world of work is always changing. And those are those two main pieces, right? So it's a constant process of growth and reflection and introspection. And I say creating those opportunities, but I guess what I mean is like, if you don't think you qualify or you're like, maybe I qualify, whatever, don't self-reject. Put the application in. Why not, right?
Yes.
Put the application in. Let us kind of help you with that. If you're getting like constant, I'm not going to say rejection because that's harsh, but like if you're constantly not getting hired or getting interviews, we can kind of figure out what the gaps are and maybe why. And then we're going to go create that academic opportunity or that training opportunity, right? We'll figure that out. It is a process and a journey, but not just because we're growing all the time, but also because really traditionally we're changing things up. So just gathering those information pieces and being able to put them into action in a way that fits who you are is the goal. And of course, I'm always here for students. We do serve alumni as well. But my goal is to teach you those tools so you're self-sufficient in that way. So 10 years from now, when I'm on to my next career, okay, or whatever it happens to be, or I win the lottery and, I'm in my vacation home in Portugal. I'm just going to put that out in the universe. You're able to kind of make some of those decisions, right? We don't want you to be reliant on our services. We want you to know that they're there when you have those questions and when you need that support. But we also want the decision ultimately to be coming from you as the student that's coming in to see us. We're not making choices for you.
Yeah.
We're helping
Guiding
you discover.
to them.
Yes, exactly. We guide, they decide, right?
Ooh. Look at your rhymes.
Yeah, and that's the goal. And I would say the career exploration piece is actually probably my favorite part. And I'm the type of person to romanticize jobs all the time. So as I'm going through things with students, I'm like, I found my next career.
You're like, I'm going to write that one down for myself.
Yes. How much in student loans do I have? And can I go back to school for this degree? Like in another lifetime, I would become a physical therapist, right?
Yeah.
Because I love working out and athletes and, rehabilitation for folks. It's still helping, right? Still
Helping
another form
people,
of helping.
of course, yeah.
But it's just slightly different offshoot. But I don't have money for another doctorate at the moment.
Fair.
So that one might be, a no for me. I might decide not to pursue that.
For now, though.
For now. I mean, I could win the lottery and go on and do it again.
You'll see her in college. That's how you
know. I know.
She won the lottery.
I'm a lifelong learner for sure. And pretty much anything you put in front of me, I think is interesting. Or I just at least want to know more about it. And that is definitely helpful when it comes to pursuing things that require education. But you don't have to go on and get a doctorate to be successful in life. You really don't. And it takes all kinds of kinds. And if there are folks out there who are kind of going through their career exploration and they're like, I don't want to be in school forever, or it's too expensive, or whatever reason, I want folks to know that's normal too.
Mm-hmm.
And not every pathway requires intensely long educational pathways,
No,
right?
yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. One is not better than the other. But sometimes I will have students come into me and they're like, well, I don't want to do a master's program or whatever. And I'm like, well, what are you into? Let's figure it out. And it could be a certificate program, and talking about being an entrepreneur and starting your own business, right? And that doesn't necessarily require all the student debt and years of effort. And I wouldn't necessarily, push anyone in that direction if that's not what's required for the goal that they have. So I would say all, occupational goals are good. All educational goals are good. And not to put weird boxes on it. I mean, I feel like depending on who you ask, people will kind of put things down or say it's less than or whatever. And it's not up to them.
It's not. It's up to you.
So, and then don't put yourself in that box.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Yeah.
We have a lot of really great career education programs here for those folks who are not into the super long educational pathway. Dental hygiene actually just became a bachelor's program, so it is slightly extended. So maybe not the best example, right? But we have auto, we have fire tech, we have early childhood education. HVAC,
Yeah.
sorry. It's heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
Yeah.
So, being an HVAC technician, it's one of those like highly skilled jobs that you should not DIY ever.
I should take that.
You want to hire the professional, right? You want to go to someone who's had the training on that one. I might tackle painting a small room, but maybe not HVAC, maybe not working on my own car. So again, we have a lot of areas that are teaching folks real skill sets, right, that they can take out into the community and be happy doing as well. So again, we look at a lot of factors. We look at who are you and where do you fit, but also how much education do you want? How committed are you to moving past Oxnard College or getting a transfer degree? Or if you want to be a surgeon, that's going to be like 10, 12 years, which is great, right? But again, all pathways are good. We just have to figure out what's going to fit you best. And then we also look at things like location, right? Like I'll give veterinary medicine, for example. I have a lot of students who are interested in being vets. Vet school is really competitive.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you got to move around a little bit to be able to do it, or even medical school, right? People have to go to different places for medical school or wherever they match in terms of residency. And if that's not something that feels realistic for you, then maybe we look at something else that's similar but a slight adjustment, right? So the physical therapy example that I gave, sure, I could figure out a $200,000 loan somewhere, right? It's not that necessarily that much.
Yeah.
But also I have young kids at home, and who knows where I'd get accepted. And could I do it? For sure. Is it worth it when I already have a job that I love and I'm happy doing what I'm doing? Probably not, right? So you have to weigh all of those decisions and all of those factors. And everybody's got different circumstances going on, and they have different answers to those questions. And I would say as long as you're not unnecessarily holding yourself back, it's okay to factor all of those things in, right?
And we talked about, not us, but on a different episode, the world is going to tell you no numerous amounts of times. You've got to at least be the person that tells yourself yes. Because you get one yes in this world. Let it be yourself at the very least.
Oh my goodness.
Because
don't self-reject.
Yes. What's the term? It's self-reject, but also self-sabotage.
Yeah.
It happens a lot because you get so caught up in working and pushing hard, and then it's your body's way of being like, you need to slow down. It's not necessarily you're trying to sabotage. It's just you need to relax. Like your body, quite literally, your mental health needs a break. Because if you don't, worse things are going to happen to your health. And you might not think it. I've always referenced previous episodes. But I grew a really bad shoulder pain because I was just like tunneling through all these things. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, yeah, I can't move. Like, I can barely move this. And I did not know why. And my poor boyfriend's like, because you haven't slept. And I don't know how long. And I was like, ah.
You're like, oh, wait, we need sleep?
Yeah. I was like, oh.
I forgot.
Good note. Thanks. I'll
try that.
Next week. I'll try that next week. Since this week ended. But, yeah, And I love that you brought up there's just so many different pathways, and school may not even necessarily be what you want to get through. A certificate program. We provide a lot here at OC.
We really do.
Honestly, I was quite surprised when I came back.
Yeah.
I was like, do I want to become do I want to go into HVAC? I need to learn about my car. I'm tired of going to the places and they're like, yeah, you have this, this, and this broken. That'll be $3,000. And I'm like, I came in for an oil change.
You're like, I think I can go through the entire program at OC and fix it myself for less than that. So hang on.
Exactly. I'm like, wait a minute. If I can't get through this, I might come back and deal with it. But anyway.
Wouldn't it be nice to have the time and ability just to learn everything? And
I know. Anytime I run into every problem now, I'm like, maybe I can sit here and learn it real quick so I can just do it myself.
It also makes you extra grateful for the professionals who did go through all that training.
Yes! And then I'm like, okay, here's my money because I get it because I tried and I did not do it right.
Oh my gosh.
So here's all of the money.
Absolutely.
Please just take it off my hand.
But you're right. The world does say no, and sometimes the world says no for really silly reasons.
Silly.
And silly is like the nicest word I can think of to put
it.
Of course.
We can get into real deep dark words.
We could, and a lot of things that are, not safe for work necessarily in terms of words.
Hey.
Part of what I love to look into with career counseling is there are very physical, tangible barriers sometimes, and then sometimes there's these invisible barriers that some folks don't even believe are real, but they're very real and they're very impactful. Things like imposter phenomenon, things like stereotype threat. If you're the only woman walking into a room of males, there's a lot of pressure to represent an entire group versus, those other folks more in the majority group don't really have that same pressure, right?
No,
they have a lot more freedom just to learn things and make mistakes and grow, which we should all have the ability to do. But we don't really all get that same grace to make those mistakes.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, and if you look at different fields like with STEM, it's primarily white men who end up in those STEM majors and those STEM fields, and it's not because only those particular groups want to be in STEM, and it's not because those groups should only be in STEM. That's not why. So part of what we do with career counseling too is kind of looking at where those barriers are to kind of try to help retain more folks and make different fields more diverse. And you can kind of look and see, we use, or anybody can use this. It's the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, and you can look at the gender breakdown of folks. I'm pretty sure it's still in the binary, just a heads up. It only, I think, tracks male and female so far. There's not enough data for folks outside of those areas, but
you can this new initiative. Who else will?
yeah. No, this stuff is so important to me. Because I come across so many folks who, women in firefighting, right? There's not a lot of women in firefighting, and a lot of folks will be like, it's not that I couldn't hack it. It's just, I felt, pushed out, or I felt like I didn't belong, or whatever, right? And there's a lot of ways we can try to work around that so you don't, unnecessarily leave a field that you're good in, and that you enjoy. That's just one example, right? Women in STEM, women in firefighting. We don't have a ton of men in dental hygiene. It's not just women, but which groups are missing from this area and why? And if somebody is a part of that group that's missing, how do we make sure that they're still successful from some of those invisible barriers that, again, are very real just because you can't see them? And how do we help folks?
Doesn't mean you don't feel them.
And again, they have the same outcomes as some of those more visible barriers. So part of that career counseling is how do we help folks
navigate
it, advocate for themselves, make sure they know their rights in the workplace in case anything's going on, right? As much as I would like to live in a rainbows and sunshine world, discrimination does exist, right? Course. And sometimes that's very obvious, and sometimes it's very covert, and it's hard to navigate. So career counseling is also about helping folks navigate those areas as well. Not just what do I like and how do I get there? What's a resume? It's mental health, it's discrimination, it's all those different barriers that might be in somebody's way. And it's important to look at those pieces too, because people can succeed in certain areas. And sometimes it's just adjustments, sometimes it's counseling. Sometimes it does mean parting ways, depending on who the person is. If that's what is best for them, that's what's best for them.
Relocating.
Adjusting in some way or another. But yeah, those things exist too. And we get to support with that. So if somebody's feeling nervous or anxious, feeling imposter syndrome, like they don't belong somewhere, I would say please come see us and let us help you work through that. Don't self-reject.
Yeah.
Don't self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Don't let that inner critic jump out. Like you said, the world's going to do that enough for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just know, too, with advocacy alone, they do a great job, but self-advocacy as well. You know, you have the right to speak up. You have the right to write things down. Everything that someone else can do for you can also do for yourself. Just know that you also have people in your corner. Remember, you're your first supporters. So
yeah. And find your allies, too, though.
Oh, of course.
For sure.
Yeah.
Always know who your allies and your people are.
Yeah.
And self-advocate as much as it's possible for you to do so. But
But
definitely
like
have the allies.
you said, sometimes all you have is kind of yourself in those situations. So it's good to know that you have a core foundation in yourself entering the workforce. And just no self-sabotage, just being confident that you know what you're doing, you know you're educated, you know all of the things, that's what helps me. I go through the checklist of being like, I know what I'm doing, and it's okay to sit there and make sure that everything is lined up perfectly, because then it just brings you into such a peace of mind, and then kind of all those Sunday scaries kind of not disappear, but melt away a little bit, because you know you're confident in yourself.
You also have a career counselor that can kind of restore that hope for you a little
There
bit.
you go.
Because sometimes we can't always bring that confidence out in ourselves.
Of course.
I mean, I struggle with imposter phenomenon. I like to say I'm the poster child for it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've had a name for about a decade now. It was a lot of what my dissertation surrounded. And it's a very real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so helpful to know that other people exist in that same space. But in addition to having your peers, it's also really important to have, especially in education, faculty mentors or supervisory mentors or somebody in the field that's a mentor to you. To have that positive relationship with and be a reminder for you that you do belong in those spaces when you're not able to remind yourself.
Yeah. This is a very strict saying I used to say to myself. So this isn't necessarily something you should say, but imposter syndrome, I used to say a lot. Whenever someone complimented me, I'd be like, "Oh, am I great, or is everything else just mediocre?"
Oh my gosh.
That is very toxic. I'm going to say that right now. That is a very toxic mindset. And that is something that reduced my integrity, my work ethic to something that it didn't need to be reduced to.
Yeah.
I could just take the compliment and put on my resume. Hey, put on my resume.
I can take compliments.
Yeah, exactly. So regarding mental health and invisible barriers, there's invisible barriers in your mind too that necessarily society may be inflicting them upon you, but not in that very moment. And you're just kind of pulling it from that history and you're putting it upon yourself. So also, if that's something you need to come talk to your counselors about, please, it's not necessarily just outside forces. It can be very much internal. And our career counselors here can help with both outside and internal. So don't feel like it's just strictly, I'm going to come in, talk about classes, talk about my work ethic, all this stuff. No, if you're having anxiety about just putting down a resume, talk about that. And then that helps them as well kind of figure out where to start. Because maybe we don't even talk about resumes today. It's more about like, okay, let's just have a quick conversation about this and figure out where these anxieties are coming from.
Absolutely. You got to triage, right? You have to triage. What do you need and what's the most important thing that we need to get through in this moment for you? One thing I will say about, I'm just going to say Oxnard College as a whole. So not just our students, but also I feel like our faculty and our staff and really everyone that I get to interact with here, we have, I don't know if a higher sense of resilience is a way to say it, but we have some very gritty and resilient and strong and capable people.
Yes, we do.
And I would say a lot of the time those people don't even realize how much strength that they actually have. And when you get to view it from the outside and folks tell you their stories and all the things that they've been through and what they've overcome, they just look at that, and it's their lives, right? So they just look at that as, well, that was normal. That's just what I had to deal with. Or something that I say all the time is, it is what it is, right? And it's okay to say, like, it is what it is, and look at how wonderful I came out of that and look at the things that I did for myself and my family and my loved ones to make things better or whatever it happened to be. I've overcome so much. And I feel like everyone here that I interact with has so much of that. So no matter where you are in that journey, and again, we're all on the journey. It's not just students who are in school. We're all on that journey. I'm so happy doing what I do here, but I'm still in the career exploration phase, right? Maybe not necessarily changing jobs, but what is it about my strengths or skill set that I can use to be supportive in these ways? Right now with the political climate, where can I use my strength, skill set, and knowledge to support students better and more effectively as things are changing and maybe not always in the best ways, right? How do I be that advocate? It's a constant movement. And everybody's in it. We're all in it together. And like you said, the anxieties, the stresses, like those are all normal pieces.
Oh, yeah.
My job is to help kind of unravel some of that for you so you're not taking it on alone. And maybe it'll be a little bit more fun of a process. But they're all normal pieces of the process. Self-doubt is
unfortunately
something
normal.
that happens, right? It's something that happens, and it's not something that you should have to tackle alone. So again, I just say come see us, and we have Cafecito con Career every Tuesday. So even if it feels a little bit daunting to come in for like a specific one-on-one, or maybe you don't necessarily have a lot of time, but you just want to come by like real quick and duck in. Every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. we have Cafecito con Career. We have coffee. We have various like pastries and snacks that we have available for students. And it's not like a formal presentation. It's just a space for you to come chat with me as your career counselor and other counselors that we have in the center, our job placement specialists, our career services specialists and coaches, and just chat. And maybe that'll make you more comfortable, or maybe we kind of get some of those issues solved even just informally chatting with each other, or maybe just make you more comfortable in the space. At the very least, you'll get coffee and snacks.
Hey.
So I highly recommend stopping by for that event, especially if you're feeling a little bit more nervous to kind of take that jump into our services. It's a space for you, and it doesn't even have to be about career. Just have some coffee with us and get to know us a little bit.
Yeah. That's a weekly event. Now, are there any larger events that you want everyone to know?
Yes, we do quite a few things in the Career Center. One of the ones that's coming up soon, April 16th, in front of the Student Services building. Oh gosh, at the top of my head, I should know this. I want to say
Pause for notes.
10 to 1. I think it's 10 to 1.
Okay.
We're probably going to have to go back and just plaster someone's face over mine and say the right time.
Okay.
But we are having the annual job fair. So it's a bigger event. We have 100 plus employers that come looking to hire our students. And if you need resumes printed or created or whatnot, come and see us. It's also okay if you just happen to wander through it and just network with folks. It doesn't have to be a super formal thing. If you are looking for a job, of course, it's great to be as prepped and polished as possible. We can support you with that. But again, don't avoid it if you're not prepared. Just go talk to people. Yeah. It's okay. Lots of different areas. The city of Oxnard will be here. Lots and lots of different folks. So again, over 100 plus folks coming to talk to students. So that's a big one that we have coming up. We also do resume workshops monthly. We tend to separate those into 2 different spaces. So the first one that we encourage you to go to is kind of do's and don'ts of resume writing. There are some huge red flags that people can paint for themselves and not even realize they're doing it, right? So kind of the do's and don'ts of resumes, that's just more of what to put on a resume, what format is best for you. Then the follow-up to that is an in-person session where we put you in a computer lab and we help you kind of write it and create it. So especially if you're feeling nervous about that, we can support you as well. Of course, we do one-on-ones with resumes too. So if you already have one, you just need a review of it, that's fine too. But we do those workshops. We also do career and major exploration workshops for folks. We do career connections, and they're not really workshops. So we have, we just had LA County Lifeguard come out. They are going to be hiring starting in the September timeframe. So they came out and they just had a table and a pop-up tent, and we had cupcakes with little surfboards on them.
That's sweet.
And they got to chat with folks who were in that field.
Yeah.
We've had different speaker series that you can kind of stay tuned for. So panels of folks. We did a law speaker series at one point where we had a Ventura County Superior Court judge. We had a paralegal. We had multiple different attorneys that were there, and we had a probation officer that was there talking about their jobs and what they do. And at the end of that event, folks often are willing to chat with people one-on-one. So it's another good place to network and kind of a little less formal of a setting. It's not an interview. It's just an area to get information and connect with folks. We had an entrepreneurship panel at one point too, which was vastly diverse. We had a photographer. We had a hospitality management consultant. We had a hypnotherapist that had her own business that came in. We had an HVAC technician who ran his own business. And I think we had a real estate agent there as well. So lots of different ways to be an entrepreneur, right? We had that panel as well. Basically, our goal is to kind of connect you to the resources. Informational interviews, which is essentially just sitting down with someone in a job that you're interested in and chatting with them about their day-to-day, is sometimes a little nerve-wracking. So, or it's intimidating, or you can't find people always, right? So we try to bring the professionals to you, and we have a bunch of different events that pop up throughout each semester. Where we can connect you with employers, and not just employers, just people who want to talk to you about their job. We do lots of things.
Yeah,
I want to say those are the main ones.
Coming up April, because
April 16th is the job fair, right? Fair. So, and again, those folks are hiring, so they're looking for people to fill positions. However, if you're not looking for a position currently, or if you're just looking to see what's out there, or you're just looking to chat with someone about what their company or organization does, great place to do it. Yeah. Right? It's another networking event where we're bringing folks in to chat with you. I almost ripped the headphones off of my head.
It's okay.
So that is a good event for that as well. Again, the primary purpose is to help our students find employment. But outside of that, you can also chat with folks in different fields and see if it feels like a fitting occupation.
That it brings me back also to I went to one of those events, and I didn't know a lot of the jobs that we currently have in Ventura County. And so everyone's very friendly, very willing to talk to you. I asked a million questions, and I refaced every time being like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to ask you questions. Okay? Because I came a little late, so I understood too.
Okay, so our goal is we are not apologizing for ourselves anymore. We are not apologizing for existing.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. I'm going to take that out of my vocabulary.
Yes.
But yeah, they're very, very friendly. I wasn't necessarily looking for a job, but they were willing to just take any and all of my questions. So if you just want to figure things out a little, like she said. But we talked about a little bit about everything, but I wanted to bring up when we go into the education system as well, a major is a very vast and very vague topic. And a lot of people think, oh, I get into this, let's say we're going into business. I always bring up business because I'm going into business. Business has so many different...
so diverse.
So diverse. And every major is. And I feel like when people go into that program, they're like, okay, if I go into a STEM program, okay, well, then I have to be an engineer. You know, it's not just one way.
Want to hear my favorite one? Okay. So I'll have students come in, because major exploration is something that we provide as well. They kind of go hand in hand, major and career, right? Your major ideally is providing you a skill set that makes you qualified to do whatever the job is that you're going to go do. So one of my favorite ones is when students come in and we talk about the things that they enjoy, and they say, I love reading. I love writing. And I'm like, well, have you considered English? Reading and writing, primary things you're doing in that major. And they sit there and they tell me, well, yeah, but I don't want to be a teacher. And I'm like, what the heck does that have to do with it, right? Yeah. So yeah, cool. Education, becoming a teacher, sure, that's one thing you can do with that major, but it is one thing. A lot of folks who go into law school studied English because what do you do as a lawyer?
Right.
You read and you write a lot. Right? A lot. So that skill set is highly beneficial in that field. And you're right. People don't realize that.
They think it's one linear pipeline into whatever career that major specifically kind of has more. It's not even, it's just more media coverage on it. It's not even necessarily like people go into there the most. Sometimes you look at the statistics, there's actually jobs that have a lot more people that go feed into it, but they're just not talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And one way to think about it when you're looking at majors is, what are the skill sets that I'm learning? And where can I apply those moving forward, right? Now, again, I like to ask this question of folks, and I'll say, does your major matter? And some people will say yes, and some people will say no. And I'm like, it's a trick question. It really depends, right? It always matters in some way, right? And ideally, you're enjoying what you're studying and you're loving what you're learning. That's the goal, because you get to pick it, right? You get to pick it. So let's pick you something that you're going to enjoy. But there are very few occupations that require specific things. So like most folks who study dental hygiene become dental hygienists. Most folks who study an ADN nursing program are going to become a nurse, right? Being an accountant, you have to have certain accounting courses and coursework, right? There are some things that you need to do to qualify in certain fields, right? However, if you are someone who wants to work in human resources, how many different majors do you think would be beneficial to you in performing your job as a human resources specialist, right? Or even in my role, there are minimum qualifications. You have to have a master's in counseling or something related, right? So I knew I had that, but how many different undergraduate majors prepared me for my master's in counseling? So many different majors, right? So you're right. It's not linear. It's not typically a one meets one kind of thing. It can be in some select situations, right? You're not going to be a nurse without your nursing background kind of thing. Outside of those situations, it's an abundance of programs that you can pursue. And a lot of them will give you some similar skill sets.
Yeah. And with those minors or majors, whatever you choose, it might be a sociology degree, but where can sociology can take you darn near anywhere you could take it.
That was one of my majors in undergrad.
There it is. There it is.
That was one of mine. I loved it. Social justice advocacy, policy, HR is another one. You can work in the government. You could go to law school if you wanted to. You could go to med school with sociology if you wanted to. Caveat, you have to have the medical school prerequisites. But that would be highly beneficial.
That's not even a minor. That's just classes you need.
Yeah.
And so you don't even need to go through the whole program. It's just like, oh, you just need these 3 classes. It's all about looking into things and doing the research.
What's the pathway?
Exactly.
What's the pathway? What do I need to get there? Right? And you don't have to do that alone. We support that as well. But yeah, you're right. I actually had a student who came back to us at OC. He had never been an OC student before. He's from the Oxnard area, but he went straight to UCLA. He studied economics. And in his senior year as an econ major, which he still enjoyed, but in his senior year as an econ major, he fell in love with the idea of medical sciences. And he wanted to help people as a physician. Do you think he was able to get into med school?
Yes.
Well, yeah. So he came back to us. And there's different things. There's entrance exams that you have to get into. So if you know you want to be a physician, often studying the sciences is really helpful in terms of the entrance exams and the material that you're going to be learning, right? So if you know that already, it might be best to start that way. But if you chose sociology or econ or whatever, and you're like, oh, I already went through this whole degree, yeah, you still can adjust it. So what this student ended up doing was coming to us, taking his anatomy, his physiology, his microbiology, his chemistry, all of the medical school prerequisites that he would need to enter, passed his MCAT, got into a couple different medical schools as an econ major, right? So again, he still had the minimum qualifications that prepared him, and he did well enough by taking those courses. It took him an extra 1.5 to 2 years because the sciences are sequential in nature. You can't take them all at the same time, like you could potentially some other majors. So it did take some extra time for this person, but that's okay because he got where he wanted to go. Ideally, we take the most efficient route, and we know that ahead of time, but it doesn't mean you can't change your trajectory if you started one route or another. It's always okay to change your mind. We always just want to make sure that you're making those decisions, again, intentionally and effectively, and you know why you're making those decisions. That's the goal. So change your mind. Yeah, go on a completely different trajectory. Totally fine. You may have a couple more years than you would have if you started right away, but who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, who cares? Don't hold yourself back from something that you would genuinely enjoy just because it's a little bit of extra effort if that's exactly what you want to do. Just let us help you get there.
Yeah. And hey, you never know. Maybe the 2 worlds collide in a way you had no idea they did. You just talk to a career counselor and do a little research and like, hey, this part of my economics degree and then my medical part mushed together, and now I'm happy all over because now I'm doing both parts of what I enjoy.
Do you know what a lot of my artistic students do who study things like art or music?
What?
I talk to them about art therapy and music therapy and play therapy and all those things. And they're like, wait, I can do that? Yeah. So we talk about what art therapy is and who it's effective for and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, I had no idea. And then a lot of them end up getting the psychology prerequisites. They still study art primarily, but they get their MFT or counseling prerequisites depending on which pathway, LCSW, LPCC, different mental health licenses to allow you to practice as a clinician. And they get those courses, which typically are like 3 to 4 psychology courses. You'll see maybe general psych, you'll see developmental psych, you'll see stats, abnormal psychology. I don't think I listed that one yet. There's usually a handful of psych courses. So if they studied art all the way and they're like, okay, I wonder what I'm going to do with this. How am I going to apply it? And then they learn about art therapy and they're like, oh, I could totally do that. And then they move on to grad school and get those credentials as well. So it's fun. There's a lot of different things that you can do with whatever pathway you're on.
And it's so important to remember that it's your choice. And at the end of the day, you're going to a job that you're going to go to every day. So, might as well be happy while doing it.
Yeah.
So figure out that happiness. Because that's the thing. You don't go in just knowing you're going to be happy. But it's that trial and error of being like, do I like this? Do I like that? No. Okay, well, stay away.
Yeah, let us help reduce some of that guesswork, right? I mean, again, the most effective way to know if you like something is to be in it.
Yeah.
Right? So getting the experiences early on, even if silly example, but I have a student who, this is hypothetical. I have a student who wants to be in the medical field, whether they want to go to nursing school, whether they want to be a respiratory therapist, whether they want to be a physician and what kind of physician they want to be. And I'll often be like, well, okay, there's St. John's Hospital. They used to, I haven't looked recently, but they used to do these internship type roles where you would get immersed in the hospital setting. So obviously you can't go and be a surgeon yet.
Yeah.
Right? You have to go through the schooling. But I'll have students just go and work in the gift shop or go and work in just
be near it.
Some aspect. And if you are in the hospital setting and you find your blood pressure rising because it is too intense, that's a good sign to think maybe we shift gears. Or if you end up in that setting and you're like, I'm thriving here, this is exciting, this is dynamic, that's a green flag, right? Let's keep moving forward. I can only tell you so much as a career counselor. If you're interested specifically in counseling or education, those are things I have background in. I was a personal trainer at one point. You can ask me a little bit about that, right? I worked in hospitality for 10 plus years, but outside of those things, I don't really know the inside of everything.
Of course.
So yes, I can tell you from the outside perspective. I can tell you how to get there. I can tell you how things might line up with how you are. And you really want to go on and get the day-to-day information from the people doing the job. And if you can immerse yourself in that environment somehow, even better. Right? Even better. I have so many students who come in and they're like, I want to be a nurse. And then they realize the things that you have to interact with and the bodily fluids. And they're like, I have to touch what?
Yeah.
And then they're like, I have to study the sciences. I don't like those. Or whatever it happens to be. And I'm like, yeah, this is how it is. Right? And sometimes what we do is we romanticize these jobs and we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this because this is what I know. And then for those folks who are thinking about nursing, it's like, well, what are some other ways that we can help people? Because that's going to be one.
Yeah.
But what did you like about it? Because it wasn't necessarily the science track or the bodily fluids
track,
right?
I loved.
But do you like working with kids? Do you like working with adults? Do you want to create things for people? Do you want to work with your hands to help people? Do you want to counsel people? And then we take the pieces of that occupation that they did think were interesting and we find them in other places where they're not necessarily freaking out about what they have to touch, right? And trust me, that's not something that I can do either, which is why I'm grateful that we have so many different and diverse folks that have so many different and diverse interests, and it makes the world go round. But you're right, it has to be that knowledge factor, right? And getting out and experiencing and immersing yourself as much as possible in those areas.
Yeah, and just in general, as part of my generation, I've noticed is that we'll focus on all the things we don't like, and we'll never figure out what we actually like, because it's we think we know what we like because of all these things we hate. And it's when you really come down to it, it's no, I just have this immense list of the things that I would rather not do. But when it comes to what I'm passionate about, I'm lost.
Yeah. It's also okay to know what you don't like.
That's amazing.
That's an important piece.
That's the first, But then it's because then when you have all this, but then also it's okay, now what?
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say is I have seen a lot of folks come in and it's discouraging, which I get, you know, if you're like, well, I didn't like this and I didn't like this and I didn't like this. Yeah, sure. It becomes a lot.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot. And again, most of the time that when folks are coming in and when they come in and they say don't like a lot of things, it's often folks we haven't seen in the past who haven't kind of helped let us help them navigate some of it, right? Because if I had a student who was like, I really just I'm so good with numbers, but I just really don't like writing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not directing you towards the writing intensive careers, right? Maybe we're looking at things with patterns and numbers and
Stats.
something that you actually enjoy. And again, you can get really discouraged. It's hard, and that's another thing that we can support you with is just come in and vent to us about being discouraged.
Yeah.
And the job market is sometimes hard, right?
Oh, gosh,
it's just a reality depending on where we are in life. But I don't know. I guess the thing is just to be open to it. The other thing I would say for folks is there's no such thing as the perfect job.
No.
And we as a society have put a lot of pressure and talked a lot about a dream job, which in some ways is fine.
But you can have more than one dream, so.
And sometimes when you put pressure on someone to find their dream job, they prematurely remove things from their field of view, right? And again, there's no such thing as perfect. I would argue I'm one of those people who feels very lucky to love what I do, and I feel energized in the morning to come and do what I do. And there's still aspects of my job, like when there's legislation that gets handed down that I'm like, I don't think this is going to be super helpful, but I have to do it because it's the law, right? And I don't necessarily want to do notes all the time or whatever it happens to be. Like, I would rather be out engaging with students, but sometimes I have administrative stuff I have to do, right? So it's not necessarily let me find the perfect job. It's not even necessarily let me avoid everything that I dislike. What you're looking at is, do the pros outweigh the cons? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So are all of the things I'm getting out of this enough to make the cons not feel so bad?
Yeah.
Or make the stuff that I don't like just be things that I just have to do?
Yeah.
There's never going to be something that's 100% perfect. But I don't think anything in this entire world was supposed to ever be 100% perfect.
No.
And I don't know why we decided to apply that to career pathways. Come on, like let's look. And listen, I am the most perfectionist person that you will find, right? But even I gotta be like, okay,
oh yeah,
that's not realistic, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that because something isn't perfect that it's not good.
No.
What's that phrase? I love cliches. I don't know if you've noticed that about me. I don't know if I've said a million of them or not, but
you said the ones I've heard not at all, so I love it.
I love them. I know some people find them incredibly annoying, so I'm just going to apologize now for people who are listening.
Person,
I don't like cliches. But there's one that it's you don't throw out the great for the perfect or the good for the great, right? Like you can't get rid of everything just because there's one little tiny detail, right? And again, I get white coat syndrome. I am not someone who wants to be anywhere near a doctor's office. So I would not be great in the medical field. I would not be great as a nurse, right? That is a deal breaker for me, right? What are your deal breakers?
Yeah.
If it's a deal breaker, and then be realistic about those deal breakers. Don't be so down on it that every single thing feels like a deal breaker, right?
Yeah.
If there's some deal breakers in there, like for me, I can't act against my moral compass. Don't ask me to. I won't do it, right? So if it's a job that makes me do that, then I'm not going to go into it.
And a no.
Yes. If I have to take
you can say no.
You can say
to
no.
Other people.
Yes. Yes, it is okay to say no. It's actually the kinder thing to say no sometimes.
Yes.
Right?
You say yes and then say no later because now you're listening to some. Now they have a right to kind of be upset because you did say yes and you signed a contract.
Or you get extra grumpy and resentful because you didn't think about yourself.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
We do have to end currently, but is there any last regarding comments you'd like to say to everyone?
Well,
yes.
I'm just kidding. I guess what I just want to let students know is that you're not alone in this process. I know I've said that a few times, but it's not necessarily an intuitive process. It's not necessarily something that we get taught how to do. It's not something that we're born knowing how to do. And we often find ourselves at these crossroads where we don't need to be stuck because we're in our own heads, or that inner saboteur or that inner critic, right, gets in the way. And if you don't know what to say or where to start, if you don't have any idea, it's perfectly okay to make an appointment with me and sit in my office and look at me and say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with I don't know.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have extra amounts of research or even a direction. I don't care. None of us do. Just come in.
Yeah.
That's it. Come in. Be like, I don't even know why I'm here.
Yeah.
Great. Welcome. Right?
Yeah.
I can promise you, you're going to get something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not alone. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I don't want you to try to have to do this alone. And no matter where you are along your career journey, whether you're just starting out, whether you're changing careers, somewhere in between, we have services to support you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're free.
Yeah.
Come see us.
Come see us.
Come see us.
Come see us. Well, I will end as well. Quick example. I rushed here after my class, had no time, and I was highly doubting that I was going to be able to pull this out. Guess what? I did it, and I did amazingly. All right.
Magic.
So I just want to show all of you, it's okay to have self-doubt. It's okay to be a little hard on yourself. What's not okay?
No, it's not okay to be hard on yourself.
It's okay I want to validate those feelings.
Yes, it's
I'm
valid.
not saying to be hard on yourself. I just want to validate we all do it.
Yes, we do.
We all do it. But what you got to do is to talk to people who you have, and to also just know you got this. Okay? So I hope your feelings are validated. I hope this was a beautiful episode. And thank you to our guests.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. There it is. One of these days, I'm just going to do the worm.
Or like the robot.